So I got this message on Instagram that I want to read to you. My family and I are on ACA benefits. If they double, we will simply not be able to afford it. Either my husband or I will have to scramble to find a job with benefits in a saturated market, or we will be going without health insurance for the time being. It would be cheaper to pay for our medications and a few visits a year out of pocket. That is the harsh reality for millions of Americans. Right now, Republicans are allowing families' health insurance premiums to literally double, triple, even quadruple. People may think it's cheaper to pay for medications out of pocket, but we all know that's not really how life works. One freak accident or one bad diagnosis could cause a family to go bankrupt. I'm fighting back. Democrats in the Senate are saying no way. And Donald Trump's response? Well, he shut down the government rather than make health insurance more affordable. I am staying in this fight for health care all the way.
I wish the minority in the House could bring lawsuits, but under the House rules, only the Speaker can. So we're on amicus briefs, and again, documenting everything we possibly can. Federal troops against civilians. In our wildest dreams, did we think in 2025, the President of the United States would say to a group of U.S. generals that U.S. cities should be used as a training ground for the military to go after the enemy from within. In the first term here, I was part of the impeachment investigation. I was in the room on January 6th. Did I imagine that the orange guy would be back in charge? Absolutely no way. But here we are, and now's the time to stand up.
Everybody, we just cast our ballot here at our home precinct, and just want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. Really important election. Look, our community, Northern Virginia, is under attack by the Trump administration. They're illegally firing federal workers. They're canceling contracts for small businesses here. They're attacking our schools, trying to take funding from our schools. And we need someone in Richmond like Abigail Spanberger who will stand up for us and has detailed plans to make life more affordable for every single Virginian. So please get out today, cast your ballot today, and the polls are open until
7 p.m.
7 p.m. You have until 7 p.m. Get out and vote today. Thanks, everybody.
The Democrat government shutdown, spanning 35 days and still counting, is now tied for the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Chuck Schumer and company are going down in the history books for beating total obstructionists over a nonpartisan government funding bill. Meanwhile, it's hardworking Americans who are being forced to pay the price. Federal workers are turning to local food banks to feed their families. Head Start programs are beginning to close, as Chairman Walberg mentioned. Thousands of flights are getting delayed due to staffing shortages. Small businesses that contract with the federal government have already lost an estimated $12 billion. Even unions, as you've heard, which traditionally have favored our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, are begging for them to end their needless shutdown charade. The good news is, I think we've reached the real inflection point. Today is election day in several states, and we're hopeful that after today, the Democrats won't be as concerned about holding the line in order to appease the Kami Mamdani and Omar Fata wing of their party. And maybe, just maybe, at least 5 Senate Democrats will finally come to their senses and join us by passing our clean CR to reopen the government. The ball is in their court. Republicans have done our job. The question is, are Democrats willing to put politics aside long enough to do theirs? I hope the answer is yes, sooner rather than later. The American people deserve better.
So you've probably been hearing a lot about SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Let me see if I can summarize what's going on SNAP in a SNAP. So pre-shutdown, the USDA that runs the program says these food benefits to hungry families, millions of them, a lot of seniors, a lot of kids, they must go out even if the government shuts down. So then the government shuts down. And Donald Trump, wishing to maximize the pain on people during the shutdown, says he is not going to allow SNAP food benefits to go out during the shutdown. That is challenged in court. Trump loses in court. It's challenged in court again. He loses again. The courts say no, those funds, that food must go out. So then Trump says he's still not going to allow the food to go out during the shutdown.
This just posted to Truth Social right here. SNAP benefits will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government.
Now he's forced to walk that back later in the day today when his White House press secretary says, okay, we're going to let some of the food benefits go out.
We're complying with the court's order and we're getting that partial payment out the door.
But we're also sending instructions to supermarkets not to give discounts to people who use those food benefits. So they are doing everything they can to skirt the court orders, everything they can to take food away from hungry families because they think it provides them leverage in a government shutdown. First president ever to try to make people go hungry for his political benefit. But this is what we're seeing. This is what the debate over SNAP is. They already cut this program by billions and billions of dollars in their big ugly bill, and now they're cutting it further.
You heard the chaplain refer to the death of former Vice President Dick Cheney. The family announced that early this morning. Dick Cheney lived a life of service to his country. He was a bit of a political bug, biting him very early in his life. And he was committed that entire life to public service. He served as White House Chief of Staff under President Ford. He was a congressman for the people of Wyoming. He was the 17th Secretary of Defense and the 45th Vice President of the United States. Dick Cheney was a part of American history for more than 5 decades. Barbara and I will pray for Dick's family as they mourn the loss of a beloved family member.
Senator, I understand you met with the leader of the Democrats in the U.S. Senate, Chuck Schumer. You've heard the president call this the Schumer shutdown. How did that go?
Yeah, look, it absolutely is the Schumer shutdown. And what we're talking about with Chuck is these appropriations bills and saying, look, we've got to do our job for the American people. We cannot drag our feet and allow them to pay the price.
Was he receptive?
The time for Democrats to act like adults is now. And look, I'm certainly not going to get into the details of the conversation, but I think that we had a fruitful conversation. And look, those conversations are ultimately what breaks the logjam and allows our government to function. Like that, we actually had passed 3 appropriations bills prior to the August state work period. Look, when we're looking at how to move forward, Harris, if we're able to move those bills, that 3-bill package forward, it would fund WIC, it would fund SNAP, it would fund our veterans, it would fund our Capitol Police. It would actually allow these things to function for the remainder of the year and get us back moving. So that's one pathway forward to kind of sort of start to break this logjam and tell Democrats we're done with their ridiculousness.
In a city where everyone forgot what happened to the 2 identical towers long ago.
I'm gonna run for mayor.
Mayor, you?
We'll turn this place into Uganda, our true home.
This morning, President Trump said that he will only distribute SNAP benefits when the government reopens. He said this despite a federal judge ruling that he must use emergency SNAP funding to make sure that families do not go hungry. If there is one message that I want you to take away from today, it's that this president is willing to break the law to starve people. I'll say that again. The president is willing to break the law in order to starve people. Over the weekend, I had the chance to visit with people in my district, Danielle and Raven, who are trying to get ahead. They're working moms, trying to put food on the table. I visited Marion Polk Food Share in my district, and when I spoke to their staffs, it's clear families are hurting. More than ever, people need help putting food on the table, and at the same time, there's less food to go around. And so when children, seniors, veterans are hungry, what is the president's response? Does he send a $40 billion check to those families like he did to Argentina? No. He says, let them starve. To the 42 million Americans, including over 100,000 people in just my district alone who rely on SNAP, who rely on $6 a day worth of food, here's what I want you to know. The president and the Republican Party have decided that it's necessary for 42 million people to go hungry as a political tactic. They believe that you are not deserving of help, and they're willing to break the law to make sure you don't get it. But my Democratic colleagues and I are here to tell you, they are wrong. You did not do anything wrong. You do not deserve this cruelty. Hunger is a policy choice. You deserve support. You deserve to be helped. And everyone up here is willing to fight like hell to make sure you get it. Thank you.
I think without a doubt, Mamdani is going to win the mayor's race in New York. And that is scary. That is really sad to know that this has become the Democrat Party, the socialist and communist wing. And without a doubt, he knocked off a Democrat governor, Cuomo, in the primary. And that's why Cuomo is running as an independent. And it's scary whenever you look at Governor Cuomo and saying that he is the best choice within the Democrat Party. But unfortunately, this is the voice, the reflection of what the values of the Democrat Party have become. It's very similar to my colleagues in Washington. The AOCs, Tlaibs, Omars of the world control the House Democrat agenda.
I recognize the Democrat leader.
Unanimous consent, the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, open enrollment is now upon us. 24 million Americans are now making agonizing decisions about what health care plans they choose, if they even choose one, are able to afford one, about how much they'll be able to pay and if they can afford health care at all. I want to be very clear. This open enrollment is not like open enrollment to previous years. Never have American families faced a situation where their health care costs are set to double in the blink of an eye. But that's the reality. If you're an average American on an ACA plan, you live with that. The average American on ACA plan will pay 114% more out of pocket. 4 million Americans will lose health insurance entirely. A 60-year-old couple earning $85,000 could pay a staggering $22,600 more a year. How the hell are they going to afford that? And make no mistake, some states will suffer more than others. Here are the states that have seen the biggest increase in enrollment because of the tax credits: Louisiana, Tennessee, West Virginia, Mississippi. In other words, red states. The biggest beneficiaries of these enhanced premium tax credits are red states, millions of people in each in Florida and Texas. Republicans seem ready to tell their own constituents back home, screw you, I'd rather cut taxes for billionaires. That's what's going on. Democrats are going to keep pushing to get these premium tax credits extended. We've asked Republicans to vote for it 3 times. They voted it down 3 times. We're not asking for anything radical. Lowering people's health care costs is the definition of common sense and of what Americans want, all across the spectrum. We want only what a vast majority of Americans need and want. They want to see the tax credits extended. The Senate deserves to see serious negotiations when it comes to health care. Republicans' outrageous delay has cost Americans already too much. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
Mr. President, this morning, Wyoming
mourns the passing of Vice President Dick Cheney. His career has few peers in American life. He was a high school football team, my hometown of Casper, Wyoming, within Natrona County High School. He was White House Chief of Staff for President Ford. He represented Wyoming in Congress for 10 years and actually served as the Republican whip in the United States House of Representatives, served as Secretary of Defense for our nation, and was Vice President of these great United States of America. His unflinching leadership shaped many of the biggest moments in domestic and U.S. foreign policy for decades. Dick is going to be remembered as a towering figure who helped guide the course of history, certainly in Wyoming, and also in the United States, and of course around the world. My prayers are with his wife Lynn, with daughters Liz and Mary, and with his grandchildren as they celebrate this incredible man.
Let's talk more about the government shutdown now with Republican Congressman and House Budget Committee member Tom McClintock of California. Congressman, it's really getting painful for a lot of Americans. What do you think the prospects are of ending this shutdown as it's now in its second month?
Well, that's up to the Senate Democrats. This is not complicated. Remember your schoolhouse rock. The House passes an appropriation bill to the Senate. We did that way back on September 19th. No policy changes, just continuing spending levels that the Democrats had already agreed to so that we could keep the government operating and have all of the discussions the Democrats want to have. Now, that being done, the Senate then either has to amend the bill and send it back to the House or pass that bill on to the president. But the Senate Democrats are blocking this over demands for $1.5 trillion of new spending at a time when the government's worse than broke. We're borrowing nearly $2 trillion a year just to pay our bills. So it's not clear to me what the House can do until Senate Democrats send the bill either back to us or on to the president, and that's what they're blocking.
Do you think the American people understand it that way?
Well, I think they're coming to understand it that way. I think it's just a matter of time until the damage becomes so serious that the Democrats have to relent and reopen the government. And once they have, then we can have the discussions over their priorities and our priorities and maybe reach an agreement or at least an accommodation.
But it seems like, the two parties are so far apart that this thing has happened. I mean, government shutdowns have happened from time to time, but I've never seen as much animosity between the two parties as there seems to be right now. How do you get that common ground that you're talking about?
Well, we Republicans shut down the government in 2013. It took us 17 days to figure out it was a terrible idea and relent. It's taking the Democrats a little longer. But we had to eventually come to that conclusion, and I think that they will as well. As Lincoln said, time is a great thickener of things.
Well, according to this NBC poll that I referred to in the last hour, the American people are blaming your side of the aisle. 52% say Trump and or Republicans are responsible for this budget shutdown. 42% are blaming the Democrats. Now, it's an NBC poll. How would you answer that?
Well, the polls are all over the map on this, and I think it would be dangerous for anybody to try and chase them. And I think that's what Schumer's been doing and the other Democrats when they boast that the shutdown keeps getting better for them and better for the Democrats. And even though it's causing enormous suffering to the American people, this is the leverage that they have to get what they want, $1.5 trillion of additional spending. I think that's going to wear thin rather quickly.
That's really what happens when a party is in the minority, doesn't have the White House or doesn't have one branch of Congress or the other or both. That's when government shutdowns happen, right?
But the history is very clear on this point that any party that shuts down the government for its own demands eventually loses and must relent. And I think that's going to play out the same way here.
So you think it's going to backfire? You think it's going to backfire on Democrats?
I do. It always backfires on the party that causes the shutdown.
All right. So what are the prospects? I mean, could this go another week, another month?
Well, I can't read minds and I can't tell fortunes, but I can't imagine it going on much longer. It is having real implications for those who are dependent on government programs. And just our office is on duty right now, but since all the agencies are closed, Our constituent services are ground to a halt, which means anybody with passport problems, VA issues, Social Security problems, visa problems, we can't do much because the agencies are all closed. And by the way, this is going to haunt us for months to come because there's now a backlog of a month of problems, which means once the government reopens, the delays are going to continue to be horrendous. So the sooner that the Democrats simply reopen the government, then we can have all of those discussions. That was the whole point of the continuing resolution to begin with. It wasn't to change any policies. It didn't. It simply kept the doors open so that we could continue to have these discussions.
Tom McClintock is a Republican member of Congress from California. Congressman, thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Senator, it sounds like there's a new question for confirmation hearings for FBI directors. Will you use the plane for date night?
Yeah, he kind of teed this up for himself, old Patel did. Mm-hmm. He repeatedly, it wasn't just that once, he repeatedly attacked Chris Wray about use of the FBI jet. So there's the hypocrisy. Then with all these Trump people, there's the entitlement. I mean, this is bling for them. They just want to eat up every executive perk they can get near. And frankly, the more they abuse it, the cooler it seems to be for them. So buzzing around the country in the FBI jet for dates with his girlfriend seems like an okay thing to them. And then what's really cheesy, I mean, the part that angers me here more than even just the waste, is that when he's caught, when he's busted doing something that stupid, instead of owning up to it, he takes it out on a 27-year FBI veteran who runs the Critical Incident Response Group. And he fires that person because his tail, the tail number on his jet was being tracked the way the tail numbers on essentially every jet are being tracked. So there was nothing that the Critical Incident Response Team leader did that was wrong. Patel just needed a fall guy. And I got to believe that in an organization like the FBI, when you start doing things like that, it starts to poison the agency against you. And more whistleblowers begin to emerge because they know the boss is not competent and not decent and was bad for the organization that they serve and love.
Hi, everyone. It's Lori. And I want to talk about something urgent. Over the past weekend, Donald Trump chose to stop sending SNAP funding to states as a political tactic, hoping to pressure Democrats into caving to their shutdown demands. But the pain this is going to cause is very, very real. That's because nearly 42 million Americans rely on SNAP every month to put food on their table, including over 1 million people here in Massachusetts. And 80% of SNAP households include a senior, a child, or someone with a disability. But here's the thing, there's no real reason for him to do this. Congress already fully funded SNAP for the fiscal year, and the administration has the money and legal authority to make sure families get their full benefits this November. In fact, there's $5 billion in contingency funds available right now, and they have the ability to transfer even more money to cover the rest. This is standard practice during a shutdown. Trump's own Department of Agriculture plan said contingency funds can and should be used to continue SNAP operations. At least it did before they deleted it from their website. The law is clear. These funds exist to keep benefits going even when Republicans in Congress shut down the government. Families should not go hungry because of their political games.
Let's talk about the filibuster. Keep in mind, we hate the filibuster when we're in charge, but we loved it when Schumer and Pelosi and Biden was in charge. What did the filibuster protect us from last time? Well, it protected us from D.C. becoming a state, meaning they would have got 2 extra senators. It protected us from them packing the courts, which they would have put 13 Supreme Court justices, and then they would have controlled the courts. We kept that from happening because of the filibuster. They would change our voting laws, take away the Oklahoma's ability to have voter ID and go just to strictly mail-in or anybody that could show up at any given time with no... Yes, sir.
Are you McMullin or whatever?
I am.
Lifelong Democrat, but I think you're terrific.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, pleasure.
What's your name?
Phil.
Phil, where are you from, Phil?
I'm from New York City, but I'm a retired journalist. But what I love about you is that I don't always agree, but more and more I am agreeing because you make so much sense. But beyond that, you never insult people. You never get off track. You just lay down the facts, and what you say is usually irrefutable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
In a strong way, so I just think you're terrific.
Thank you. That means a lot. That touches me. Appreciate that. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you. But keep in mind, we would want to change the filibuster for one reason, because we want to govern. The Democrats, they want to change the filibuster because they want to change the landscape of our government. Now, I would like to think that we're going to be in charge forever, but the fact is the Senate changes all the time. And God forbid we have another trifecta like they did with Pelosi, Schumer, and Biden. But if they did, what would we be saying about the filibuster then? Just thoughts. I just want you to think about it, because a lot of conversation has taken place, but we need to think about what the consequences are moving forward if we were to change the filibuster.
In 2008, remember that Barack Obama said that his health plan would lower premiums by $2,500 per year, okay, per family.
And if you've got health care, we're going to work with your employer to lower your premiums by $2,500 per family per year.
Okay, so why are we having to bail out their own failed policies? People call it, well, the ACA subsidies debate. ACA subsidy. Well, if it's so affordable, why do we need to shovel $400 billion more money at it? Family coverage for the average employer plan, not on the exchanges, but getting through the employer, is now $27,000 a year. You can buy a car for that, and like a good car, not just a cheap car, a good car for that. Think about that in terms of how much health insurance costs. And again, it's the problem of the incentives. Everybody is incentivized to spend more money because it's not their money, it's their employer's money, it's the government's money, it's free money kind of thing. That's the problem.
Hi, Congressman Herb Conaway here, at my office here in Washington, D.C., still at work after 1 month of the Republican-led government shutdown. Democrats are here in Washington and ready to negotiate with Republicans to save Americans from skyrocketing healthcare costs. The Speaker sent his members home over a month ago. Can you imagine if you didn't show up for work for a whole month? They're afraid of being accountable to the American people, and they're afraid of the Epstein files. The Republicans won't even hold a vote to pay our troops. Can you believe it? We need the Republicans to come back to Washington and get back to work, and we need to stop the cuts, lower the costs, and save health care for every American.
ICE is out of control and people are getting hurt. In cities across the country, ICE and DHS agents have been videotaped dragging longtime residents of our communities out of vehicles, pointing firearms at bystanders, and even shooting a pastor in the face with pepper balls, completely unprovoked, while he was praying outside of an ICE facility in Chicago. Recently, in Hamden, masked agents raided a car wash and took 8 people from our community into custody, including parents of school-aged children. My office has requested basic information, including why they were detained, what charges have been filed, and where they are being held. But we have heard nothing. ICE is not targeting dangerous criminals. As President Trump promised, they are terrorizing our communities and arresting law-abiding, hardworking people. They are wearing masks to avoid accountability, refusing to produce warrants, and acting like the law does not apply to them. But it does. Law enforcement at all levels should be held to a higher standard. They need to follow the rules. Due process is the foundation of our justice system. It is a constitutional right for every person in America. Dangerous criminals should be deported. Full stop. But President Trump and Secretary Noem prefer shock and awe videos of mass arrests at car washes, farms, and apartment buildings to the hard work of investigating, gathering evidence, and deporting career criminals. Americans have had enough of President Trump's extreme tactics. But we all must speak out, and we all must be heard. Our message is clear. Take off the masks. Follow the law. Uphold your oath to the American people